What if love could return after 35 years? What if the magic of one of the most iconic romances ever written wasn't over yet? Imagine Julia Roberts and Richard Gere walking back into each other's lives on screen, their chemistry reigniting, in a way that feels both nostalgic and brand new. That's exactly what the world is talking about with Pretty Woman 2, Second Chances. This isn't just another sequel, it's the revival of a love story that defined an era, and now it's ready to capture hearts all over again. Back in 1990, when Pretty Woman first hit the screens, it didn't just become a movie, it became a cultural moment. The story of Vivian Ward, a young woman with dreams of something better, and Edward Lewis, a wealthy businessman who seemed to have everything except true happiness, was a mix of fairy tale charm and raw emotion. Together, Julia Roberts and Richard Gere created a pairing so unforgettable that it instantly entered Hollywood history. Roberts, with her radiant smile and heartfelt performance, became America's sweetheart. Gere, with his polished charm and vulnerability, became the kind of leading man audiences couldn't resist. The film wasn't only about romance, it was about transformation. Vivian wasn't the typical leading lady of her time, and Edward wasn't the typical Prince Charming. She was strong, bold, and willing to challenge the world around her. He was successful but empty, searching for something more real. And when their paths crossed, the screen lit up. Scenes like Edward snapping the jewelry box shut as Vivian laughed, or the limousine pulling up to sweep her off her feet, weren't just cinematic, they were timeless. These are the moments fans have carried in their hearts for decades. Moments that still get quoted, rewatched, and remembered today. But what made Pretty Woman so special wasn't just the glamour of Beverly Hills or the dreamy love story. It was the way the movie blended fairy tale magic with real human struggles. Vivian wanted respect, dignity, and a chance to rewrite her life. Edward wanted to break free from the cage of wealth and loneliness. Together they helped each other grow, proving that love, when genuine, can change everything. The success was beyond imagination. Pretty Woman became one of the highest-grossing romantic comedies of all time, launching Julia Roberts into superstardom and forever cementing Richard Gere's status as a leading man. Critics praised it, audiences adored it, and even after 3 decades, it remains a go-to romantic classic. It wasn't just about falling in love. It was about believing in love's power to heal, inspire, and transform. Now, 35 years later, the question on everyone's mind is simple. What happened after that iconic ending? Did Vivian and Edward live happily ever after? Or did life pull them apart? That's where Pretty Woman 2, Second Chances steps in. Fans are finally getting the continuation they've long dreamed of, and the story promises to dive even deeper into love, loss, and the beauty of reconnecting when the world least expects it. What happens when two people who once changed each other's lives cross paths again after so many years? That's the central question behind Pretty Woman 2, Second Chances. This sequel doesn't try to repeat the past. Instead, it dares to ask what love looks like when time, distance, and life experiences have left their marks. The story begins with Edward Lewis, now older, wiser, and no longer the untouchable businessman we once knew. Years of chasing wealth and success may have filled his pockets, but they also cost him something far greater: connection. Edward is no longer the man who could buy anything and control everyone around him. Instead, he's a man who has learned that life's richest treasures aren't measured in deals or profits, but in the people you hold close. And yet, despite everything, he's still missing the one person who once opened his heart, Vivian. Vivian Ward, on the other hand, is no longer the young woman struggling to find her place in the world. She has built a life for herself, one shaped by resilience and independence. Vivian is strong, established, and respected in ways she never imagined back when she first walked the streets of Los Angeles. But even with her success, there's a part of her that remembers the man who believed in her when no one else did. A part of her that wonders what might have been if their love story had continued. When fate brings them together again, it's not under the same glamorous fairy tale circumstances as before. There are no grand gestures at first, no diamonds in red velvet boxes. Instead, their reunion feels raw, real, and complicated. Time has changed them both, and with those changes come new conflicts, deeper emotions, and the unspoken question. Can love really survive after so long? This time, the film explores the idea of love not as a whirlwind fairy tale, but as a second chance. It's about two people confronting their past, facing their mistakes, and realizing that even after decades apart, the bond they shared never truly disappeared. The movie promises to capture that same spark Julia Roberts and Richard Gere created in the original, but in a way that reflects maturity and growth. Their chemistry isn't just about youthful excitement anymore. It's about the quiet strength of two souls finding each other again when they thought it was too late. But of course, no story is complete without challenges. New characters enter their lives, friends, family, maybe even rivals, who test the possibility of this reunion. Edward might struggle to prove he has truly changed, while Vivian may battle with the fear of opening her heart again. Together, they'll face obstacles that are more real, more personal, and perhaps even more heartbreaking than before. Yet, at its core, Pretty Woman 2, Second Chances isn't about pain, it's about hope. It's about reminding audiences that love doesn't have an expiration date, and that sometimes the greatest love stories aren't the ones that start fast and end quickly, but the ones that return when you least expect them. For fans, this isn't just a sequel, it's a dream fulfilled. Watching Roberts and Gere step into these roles again is like seeing old friends return home. Their reunion represents more than just Hollywood nostalgia. It's a story for anyone who has ever wondered what it would be like to find love again after losing it. As the trailer hints at quiet glances, familiar smiles, and moments of laughter between two people who once defined romance on screen, the audience is left with one powerful thought. Sometimes, the greatest fairy tales aren't about beginnings, but about second chances. One of the biggest reasons fans are so excited about Pretty Woman 2. Second Chances is the reunion of Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. For many, these two names are inseparable from the word romance. Their chemistry in the original film wasn't just acting, it was something electric, something that seemed to leap off the screen and settle into the hearts of millions. Now, after 3 decades, the thought of seeing them together again feels almost unreal. It's more than just casting. It's history repeating itself in the most beautiful way. Julia Roberts returns as Vivian Ward, no longer the young dreamer of Beverly Hills, but a woman who has lived, learned, and grown. Roberts herself has matured into one of Hollywood's most respected actresses, known for her grace, strength, and timeless charm. Seeing her slip back into Vivian's shoes means we won't just get nostalgia, we'll get depth. Roberts brings with her all the experience of a lifetime in film, and that experience promises to give Vivian a new voice, one filled with wisdom and resilience. Richard Gere, too, returns as Edward Lewis, once the polished businessman who swept Vivian into a new world. Edward now faces his own journey of growth. Gere has always played characters with elegance and quiet power, but this time Edward is layered with the weight of age and the lessons of a life fully lived. Fans can expect Gere to show a side of Edward that's softer, more vulnerable, and perhaps more relatable than ever before. The romance isn't about wealth and fantasy anymore. It's about real love, real choices, and the courage to admit that happiness is worth chasing, no matter how late in life it comes. But Roberts and Gere aren't the only stars in the spotlight. Rumors suggest new characters will play vital roles in their journey. Perhaps a grown-up daughter or son representing the next generation who challenges their decisions. Maybe a close friend who questions whether revisiting the past is wise. And of course, there's always room for fresh faces, a younger cast who bring energy and conflict into the story. These new characters will not only expand the world of Vivian and Edward, but also reflect how love stories today are more layered and more inclusive. Behind the scenes, the production is surrounded by excitement and curiosity. Hollywood insiders have been buzzing ever since whispers of the sequel began. Who will direct the film? Will it bring back Gary Marshall's spirit, the man who created the original magic through his legacy? Or will a fresh director step in, offering a modern take while still respecting the roots of the story? Fans are hopeful that whoever takes the director's chair will balance nostalgia with innovation, honoring the past while creating something that stands tall in today's cinematic world. The trailer itself has only added to the anticipation. It teases just enough to stir emotions without giving away too much. Quick flashes of Roberts and Gere exchanging a smile, a familiar piano note from the original soundtrack, and the golden glow of Los Angeles streets all remind audiences why this story still matters. These glimpses suggest that Pretty Woman 2 isn't about repeating old tricks. It's about recapturing feelings. It's about making viewers believe in love all over again. Fans have already taken to social media to express their excitement. For many, this sequel feels personal, a return to a film that shaped their understanding of romance. Younger audiences, too, are curious to see what the buzz is all about, proving that the magic of Pretty Woman can bridge generations. People aren't just waiting for a movie. They're waiting for a moment, a cultural event that allows them to relive their memories while creating new ones. And perhaps what makes this film even more special is the fact that Roberts and Gere themselves seem thrilled to reunite. Their interviews hint at genuine fondness, mutual respect, and the joy of stepping back into a story that once defined their careers. That off-screen bond is sure to shine on screen, making Vivian and Edward's love feel as authentic as ever. As production continues, one thing is clear: Pretty Woman 2, Second Chances isn't aiming to be just another romantic comedy. It's shaping up to be a heartfelt return, one that honors the legacy of the original while daring to tell a new kind of love story, one about maturity, second chances, and the timeless pull of two people who were always meant to find each other. Asterisk at first glance, Pretty Woman 2, Second Chances might look like just another Hollywood sequel, a studio reaching back into the past to spark nostalgia. But for millions of fans across the globe, this film represents something far more meaningful. It isn't only about reviving a classic. It's about reimagining what love can look like when time has passed, mistakes have been made, and life has tested every part of you. In many ways, this sequel arrives at the perfect moment, in a world where audiences crave stories that reflect hope, healing, and the idea that it's never too late to start again. The themes at the heart of this film are universal. It's about second chances, not just in love, but in life. Vivian and Edward symbolize the truth that people change, and relationships change with them. Sometimes love comes too early, sometimes too late, but when it comes back around, it asks one simple question: will you risk everything for it again? This is the emotional heartbeat of Pretty Woman 2. Another important theme is growth. In the original film, both characters were trying to find themselves. Vivian wanted to rise above her circumstances, and Edward wanted to escape the trap of money and power. Now, decades later, the sequel shows us what happens after that initial transformation. How have they grown? Have they stayed true to who they were becoming, or have they lost pieces of themselves along the way? These questions make the sequel richer and more layered than the original. And of course, there is the undeniable element of nostalgia. The world has changed since 1990, but the longing for stories that touch the heart hasn't. For longtime fans, seeing Julia Roberts and Richard Gere together again is like reconnecting with old friends. It's not just about a movie, it's about remembering who we were when we first saw it, the dreams we carried, and the emotions that film awakened in us. That's the real magic of a sequel like this. It becomes personal. The fan excitement surrounding the trailer and production updates proves just how much this story still matters. Social media buzz is filled with comments from viewers who can't believe they're finally getting closure to a love story they thought ended decades ago. Younger generations, too, are drawn in not just because of the legendary actors, but because they're curious to see why this love story has stood the test of time. It's rare for a romantic comedy to feel like an event, but Pretty Woman 2 is shaping up to be exactly that. What also makes this film stand out is its ability to connect past and present. Romance in cinema has often been shown through the lens of youth, whirlwind passions, dramatic gestures, and happily ever after endings. But Pretty Woman 2 dares to show us something different. It tells us that love at midlife, or even later, can be just as powerful, just as thrilling, and maybe even more meaningful than love at the beginning. It's a story for anyone who has loved, lost, and wondered if they would ever feel that spark again. As we look ahead to the release, one thing is certain: Pretty Woman 2, Second Chances isn't just a sequel for fans of the original. It's a film for anyone who believes in love's ability to return when you least expect it. Julia Roberts and Richard Gere's reunion is more than a casting decision. It's a reminder that some connections never fade, that some stories are meant to continue, and that the best romances don't always fit neatly into one chapter. So, as the trailer leaves us with glimpses of laughter, tender glances, and the promise of love reborn, audiences everywhere are left to ask themselves, can Vivian and Edward finally get the ending they deserve? The answer lies not only in the film itself, but in the way it will make us feel, hopeful, nostalgic, and ready to believe once again that fairy tales, even second-time-around fairy tales, are possible. In the end, Pretty Woman 2, Second Chances is more than a continuation. It's a celebration of enduring love, of growth, of resilience, and of the beauty of finding your way back to the one person who truly matters. It's not about starting over, it's about realizing that sometimes the best stories are the ones that circle back when you thought they were over, because real love, like a true classic, never fades. It only waits for the right moment to return.